I now call this meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission to order. City Clerk, would you please call roll call?
Commissioner Barraza is absent. Commissioner Collier. Commissioner Dolan.
Present.
Commissioner Duran.
Present.
Commissioner Kucharski is absent. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Trio.
Present.
Vice Chair Ward.
Present.
Chair McCoy.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Barraza is absent and I need to make an motion to excuse his absence. Is there a motion to excuse the absence of Commissioner Barraza?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Commissioner Barraza is excused. Commissioner Kucharski is absent from today's meeting. Is there a motion to excuse her absence?
I so move.
Thank you, Commissioner Collier. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Dolan. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. We will now begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand? Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now start with the approval of the agenda. City Clerk, is there any changes or proposed changes to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Trillo. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Collier. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. This item is approved. We will now move on to approval of minutes. Are there any changes or proposed changes to the minutes from September 29th, 2025, City Clerk?
There are no changes.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Dolan. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Collier. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. This item is approved. We will now move on to subcommittee reports. This item is a discussion item for the commission, and no public comments will be taken related to this item. Does the Cultural Arts Grant Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to the commission?
Yes, thank you, Chair McCoy. The Cultural Arts Subcommittee has made recommendations on the proposed EAAC grant allocation awards that will be discussed by the full commission at the item later on this agenda. We also held a public subcommittee meeting in these chambers on October 6th, and the minutes from that meeting were included. I hope that each member of this commission has been able to watch the video of that subcommittee meeting and has listened to the public comments with empathy and care. We received comments from a variety of perspectives, and the EAAC proposed grant allocations continue to stir deep emotion, a reflection that these grant funds for both established and emerging applicants touch on both dreams and livelihood. I hope that my fellow commissioners and the members of the public took the time to analyze the documents that were included with that subcommittee meeting agenda and the presentation materials included with today's agenda to examine the zip codes and narratives about communities served by EAAC grant funding that was taken into consideration when making the funding allocations proposed for consideration today. The subcommittee believes the recommended awards do recognize, reflect, and support the cultural, demographic, and geographic diversity of all parts of the city of Fresno. If equity concerns remain, I hope that we receive concrete and specific feedback about those concerns and how they can be addressed. I also hope that the members of this commission have had a chance to review and consider the 12 appeals that were discussed at the subcommittee meeting on October 6th. The subcommittee findings were that none of these 12 appeals met the narrow and opaque criteria in the current EAAC grant program guidelines as adopted by the City Council on January 30th, 2025, as follows. Any applicant not recommended to receive an award may submit a written appeal to the Arts Council staff no later than 5 p.m. by the 10th calendar day following the release of the intent to award notification. Appeals must be based on the following criteria: clerical or technical error and/or incorrect processing of the required application materials negatively influencing the panel's assessment of the applicant's request for funding. Arts Council staff will present the appeals to the subcommittee for review and recommendation to PRAC. The PRAC will make the final ruling. The Cultural Arts Subcommittee did not change its recommendations on proposed EAAC grant award allocations following a review of the 12 appeals under the current appeal criteria and a recommendation to PRAC that they did not meet the criteria for a successful appeal. However, the subcommittee only has the authority to make a recommendation to the PRAC, and the ultimate decision on both appeals and the proposed EAAC grant awards is vested in the full commission. So please bring forward any questions and considerations on the 12 appeals you may have had when reviewing those materials in our discussion on the proposed EAAC grant awards so that the current EAAC grant program process is followed with respect to appeal adjudication. Finally, I want to address something I've noticed over these last 3 meetings. With each public meeting since September 15th, some of the public comments have included misinformation and personal attacks that grow wilder and bolder each week and make me think that I'm not the only one in these council chambers with a creative writing degree. What started with twisted words grew into very personal statements against individuals, getting at their integrity and character, and most recently, allegations of illegal activity. The members of this commission are community volunteers and, like the Fresno Arts Council staff, we are private citizens, not public figures. We are your neighbors and members of a shared community. Again, let us return to a place where we can engage in difficult discussions with respect and find a way to listen to each other even when we disagree, so that we can continue to make progress towards a shared goal of expanding access to arts and culture in meaningful ways throughout the city of Fresno. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to member reports and comments. As a reminder, this is a time for commission members to report anything they feel important for the public or commission to know, but is not a time for discussion. Commissioner Duran.
I have nothing right now, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller. Thank you. Vice Chair Ward. Thank you. Commissioner Collier.
I just wanted to say there was somebody at the 29th meeting who was involved in the Arts to Zoo, and he said some of the struggles that they dealt with and the criticisms and the misinformation and the delays and all the things that, some of the things that you're complaining about or concerned about, he said they were going on 30 years ago, and he says some of the same issues are coming up now. So it's important for us to make sure that we can continue to dialogue and make this process a better one next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dolan.
No comments, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Trujillo.
No comment.
Thank you. We will now move on to city administration and park staff reports and comments. Does anyone from the administration have any reports or comments for the commission?
No comments this evening.
Thank you. Does anyone from the park staff have any reports or comments for the commission?
I do, Chair McCoy, thank you. As we are in October now, hard to believe we're here already, but this is a month that's extremely busy in the Parks Department. We have about 6 events this week going on, all geared towards the Halloween celebration coming up at the end of this month. So I encourage you all to look at our calendar and see where those events are taking place, again, free to the community. And then last meeting I was absent. I was up in Monterey, accepted an award on behalf of the Parks Department, City of Fresno, for the APA for the state of California. So we not only won the local section, but we were best in the state of California. So that is for the implementation of Measure P. So thank you to my team, thank you to the city administration, and thank you all as commissioners for your support in this effort. So I didn't bring the award. It was kind of delicate. I was afraid I was going to break it, but I'd be happy to share that with you all. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all community members who took the time to work on the Measure P campaign, who took the time to collect the signatures that we needed to get it on the ballot, and that took the time to come out to the SMP office and volunteer their time and canvas to let everyone know that Measure P was a good thing and it was going to bring money into our parks and our arts and culture system. So we couldn't have done this without those people, so thank you. We have to give it up to y'all. We will now move on to the unscheduled communication. Would any member of the public like to speak on any issue within the jurisdiction of the commission? You will have up to 3 minutes. As a reminder, if you would like to make a comment regarding any of the scheduled hearings, comments will be taken when each item is called. So I'm assuming these cards are here for the hearing, correct? Not for unscheduled communication. Right. All right, just wanted to make sure. Nacho, you want to come up? Not here? Okay, Pedro, come on up for me.
Hello, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Pedro Navarro Cruz, and I'm speaking on behalf of Love Peace Football, a grassroots community initiative that has hosted free organized soccer pickup games every Monday night at the inline hockey court in Cary Park for the past 2 years. We average around 100 participants weekly, and these gatherings continue a 20-year tradition of community soccer at that same space. As recent as today, our community was displaced when a roller hockey group reserved the court, fully aware that hundreds of residents, mostly people of color, use it weekly. This decision effectively pushed out our long-standing community to accommodate a handful of players. It reflects a pattern of inequity that contradicts the One Fresno promise, and it mirrors past conflicts like the volleyball and pickleball disputes. What makes this even more concerning is how the city handled access to the space. When LPF inquired about reserving the court to formalize our use, we were told about the cost being $145 per hour, a rate far beyond what the means of a volunteer-run, community-driven effort can afford. After raising our concerns to the Parks Department and the City Council member for the area, we later discovered that the same facility was offered to the hockey group at a discounted rate of $90 for 2 hours, a rate that was never communicated to us. This lack of transparency and fairness is deeply disappointing. It also ties to a broader issue, the city's amendment to the Parks Master Plan, which appears to have just been created primarily to justify the rapid prioritization of pickleball amenities. The data used relied on national trends, not on Fresno's local participation rates or demographics. Fresno is an overwhelmingly Latino city, and the popularity of soccer, basketball, and volleyball far surpasses that of pickleball. While pickleball has its place, the pace of these investments, especially when many Fresnans don't even know what the sport is, raises serious questions. If we're going to plan responsibly updates to the Parks Master Plan, it should be based on accurate local data, not national trends that don't reflect who we are. And if we do look nationally, soccer is by far the most popular sport in the world, yet that reality is nowhere reflected in Fresno's parks investments. At times, it feels like the city is catering to a demographic that largely does not exist here, perhaps to attract outsiders rather than to serve the residents who already live here. But Fresno's families, youth, and workers deserve better. Our requests tonight are straightforward. Accommodate our weekly LPF pickups in a city gymnasium such as Tetsi Wills or Maxi Parks during our regular hours. Futsal is meant to be played indoors, and this would allow our program to continue. 2, prioritize funding in the next fiscal year for a multi-court futsal complex, at least 3 indoor or small-sided courts that reflects Fresno's culture and love for soccer. Can I close? Soccer is just not recreation, it's a source of community belonging and identity for thousands of families in this city. We're simply asking for Fresno to live up to its Once Fresno promise by ensuring that investments reflect the people who truly make the city what it is. Thank you for your time and commitment to the city.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cesar Gomez, and I coach a youth soccer team, the U12 Bears here in Fresno. I'm here to share what the Love, Peace, and Football program and the inline courts at Cary Park mean to my team, to me as a coach, and to many families in the community. Every Monday, I bring 13 kids to Cary Park to play soccer. For them, Monday means the courts. It's our tradition. It gives them structure and something positive to look forward to and a real sense of belonging. And it's not just my team. There are close to 100 kids who come out here every Monday, kids from all parts of the Fresno, different schools and backgrounds, all sharing one space, one ball, and one love for the game. Now, I could easily take my team to play on a grassy field somewhere else, but it's not the same. What happens at those inline courts goes far beyond the game. The kids know that space. They know the people, the energy, and the community. That court makes sense to them, makes them feel seen, supported, and connected. Love, Peace, and Football has done something truly special, keeping kids off the street, teaching them what teamwork is, discipline, and bringing families together through something positive and free. As a father, it also gives me quality time with my son, something we both look forward to every week. I understand the courts were reserved tonight for hockey, and I respect that, but I also believe there should be a mutual respect for community spaces that have done so much good. Whoever reserved it knows that Cary Park has become a home for kids and families every Monday. If I were in their positions, I couldn't take that space away from children who love it too much. Because what we do here isn't about money, it's about heart, unity, and hope. And tonight, I'm here representing the kids who don't have the voice in this room, the ones who just want to feel safe, positive, and have a place to play and belong. I hope the city can see that this isn't just about scheduling our sports, it's about preserving what brings people together and gives these kids a reason to stay active and inspired. Thank you for listening and for helping keep Cary Park, the inline courts, alive for the families and kids who truly need them. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online?
There are no speakers online.
Okay, I will now close unscheduled communication and will now move on to hearings. ID number -25-1408, hearing. Consideration of the Pratt Cultural Arts Subcommittee list of recommended grantees, award amounts, project titles, and a brief summary of the project location, scope, schedule, and anticipated impact to Pratt and acceptance of the recommended grantees. That was a lot. Would any member of the public, not yet. Oh, I go out to the public now for that? Yes. Would the Fresno Arts Council please start their presentation?
Chair McCoy, members of the Commission, city staff, I'm Lilia Gonzalez Chavez, Executive Director of the Fresno Arts Council. This year's EAAC grants process presented yet new challenges that we look forward to addressing in the next couple of months before we release the next RFP. In today's presentation, I will briefly go over this year's process for arriving at this year's recommendations. Please excuse the date on this opening page. It was submitted on September 17th with the intent of presenting it on September 29th. This year's process started in the summer of 2024. FAC and the PRAC subcommittee developed a set of policy recommendations in response to community feedback acquired through an evaluation survey and community comments about their experience. The policies were integrated into the established guidelines. Policy recommendations were fully vetted and approved by the PRAC and then forwarded to the City Council for final approval. A letter of intent to apply was added to the RFP as a result of the adopted policies. Throughout the RFP process, beginning with the LOI, FAC staff was available and fielded many requests for assistance. Simultaneously, FAC recruited review panelists, screened them for conflict of interest, and walked them through the application scoring criteria, which included the scoring rubric and cultural plan. Panelists were asked to declare conflicts of interest, thoroughly read the cultural plan, and further review the RFP guidelines. FAC offered opportunity for panelists to present any follow-up questions they had after the training process and before beginning the review of their applications. As stated, this work began in the summer of 2024 with policy updates. The release of the RFP was in March, with a deadline for the LOI in April. Throughout that time, FAC offered a series of workshops, including grant writing techniques and another outlining the role and responsibility of fiscal agents. Workshops were offered in person, live streamed, and on Zoom to accommodate as many people as possible. Not all applicants attended FAC workshops, as other community organizations offered workshops as well. We value the partnership and opportunity this offered, although we were not able to ensure the accuracy of those sessions. The LOI process allowed for an opportunity to provide a heads up to organizations if they were not current with their state and federal clearances before the application due date, among other screening requirements. Adjudication ran from July 28th through August 13th. 42 community members submitted applications to be panelists, and only 32 served. FAC provided extensive outreach throughout the process, providing updates, reminders, and due dates for workshops and general notice of availability of the EAAC grants. Thanks. FAC provided one overview of the RFP and LOI session at City Hall. It was live streamed, then recorded and made available on our website. We also offered one fiscal sponsor workshop, one general grant writing workshop, 2 application workshops, 1 in person and 1 via Zoom. Other community organizations offered workshops as well, and over 250 community members attended our sessions. This isn't working. Oh, wait. There it is. Here is the list of individuals who applied to serve as panelists. Only those with an asterisk actually served. Reasons for not being included were conflict of interest with applicants or the city, scheduling conflicts, or not attending training. Training was offered on 2 separate occasions to accommodate some scheduling conflicts. Panelists ranged in age from 25 to 71, with the largest range being from 25 to 34. giving us a large percentage of relatively young panelists. They represented a good cross-section of council districts and were predominantly female. The panels were diverse, with the largest group self-identifying as Latino, Chicano, and white. Other identifying information shared by panelists was sexual orientation, disability, and that they were veterans. In the name of transparency, the panel review hearings were open to applicants for observation. As an independent 501c3 organization, FAC was under no requirement to do this, but chose to provide this as a learning opportunity for applicants. I am now going to invite Andrea Mell of my staff to present the next 2 slides.
Hello. Okay, I just wanted to explain the way that scoring worked for the 4 different categories that applications were submitted under. So
Can you
we
state
had
your name first?
Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea Mell.
Thank you.
We had 2 major categories: established organizations and emerging organizations, and then under each there were project-specific support applications and general operating support applications. Each of the established applications had 7 questions, and each question was weighted a different amount, and you can see that listed on the slide, with the majority of the weight going to for operating support, organizational description, and the way in which the organization was attending to the cultural plan. And then for project-specific support, the majority of the weight was going to the project description and details and the way in which the project was attending to the cultural plan. So those 7 questions, each received a score from 1 to 6, and the rubric is on that slide as well, 1 ranging from weak and 6 to exemplary. Those 7 questions then added up to 100%. So each application overall received from 1 panelist a score from 1 to 6 in the established category, and then that was averaged by the amount of panelists who scored the application to come to an average score for each established application, whether in operating or project-specific support. The emerging applications were scored holistically on that same scale from 1 to 6, and then received an overall average score based on the number of panelists who scored that particular application. So every application out of all of the applications that were submitted received an overall average score, with the established average score being created by a weighting process that was on the previous slide. So that's the way that scoring worked. Thank you.
I thought I had it. It's not. Okay, we had 277 LOIs submitted. Of those, 269 were eligible to apply. A total of $16,140,816.31 were requested. After completing the application process and the adjudication, the PRAC subcommittee is recommending 134 organizations, and projects for funding for a total of $6,300,371.31. Although only $5,562,800 were available for this year, responsible stewardship of these funds by the Arts Council, coupled with a few incomplete projects, reaped an additional $740,571.31 for the total funding recommendation this year. You can see on this chart the breakdown between emerging general operating support, emerging project-specific support, general operating support, and project-specific support, and the distribution of dollars for each. 68% of eligible applications are being recommended for funding. The distribution of funding looks much like you would expect for a project like this. In this chart, you can see that the smallest group to be funded is emerging general operating support. This represents projects with $50,000 budgets and below. And those are projects that have their own 501c3. So they're not applying with a fiscal agent. This is their own 501c3, but they're small organizations. They're just emerging. This group is a transitional group that, with continued success, may move into the established category next year. Several are also represented in the emerging project category because they are the only subgroup that can apply for both general operating support and project support. So while this is a narrow margin, these same applicants will be in project support as well because they could apply for both. Consistent with Measure P ordinance and the cultural plan, this distribution stabilizes and supports established organizations while providing an entry point to the established category for new and emerging organizations. Out of 25 established general operating support applicants, 24 are recommended for funding. Out of 44 established projects, 38 are being recommended. Out of 12, that's that little sliver, only 12 applicants in that group. 92% or 11 of them are being recommended for funding. And out of 114 emerging projects, 61 are recommended. Overall, you will note that the more applications that are submitted, the lower percentage funded. You should also note that the emerging category has the most applications being recommended for funding. While it is true that this category receives less per individual project, it is also true that this group is funding individual artists or collectives that do not have the same overhead expenses or staffing costs that established organizations do, and includes non-arts organizations doing art projects. The emerging category allows for the development of individual projects or the opportunity to support startups who may choose to establish a 501c3 in the future. And here you see the first group being recommended for funding. They're the emerging organizations, and 11 of the 12 are being recommended for funding. The reason for this is that it was decided that applications receiving a 4 or better would be awarded funding. 3 and below were not. In this chart, you see the zip codes that are identified to be served. There's a good cross-section of the city here. For emerging project-specific support, this is the largest group with the most awards. These all have budgets that range from nothing to $50,000 and are a combination of individual artists and collectives with fiscal receivers and non-arts organizations doing projects. And this goes on through several slides, but you can see the diversity of projects that ranked 5 or 4 and above. We really have a broad range of projects that are being recommended for funding. And these are those that scored 3 or below and are not recommended. I'm sorry? Those are the projects. We have different colors for the different scores. Okay. These are the zip codes that are identified for this group. Again, you see a good mix of the city. The next category to be recommended is established organizations. These are organizations that range from just above 50,000 to 8 million. This is really a big range of budget size in this small group. So while they're established because they've been around for a while, some organizations have not grown, and so they still have a smaller budget. But some are very well established and have operations that are up to 8 million. More zip codes for this established group. You can see a consistency, and I hope you've noticed that the top zip codes are within all of these. They're right around Central, Fresno High, Southeast, Southwest. If you plot these on a chart, that's where these zip codes would be identified. And the last group is established project support. Again, a good cross-section of the community. And the zip codes proposed. So I mentioned challenges. We certainly had many, And I think one of the challenges that we still have to address is a carryover from last year. And as we move forward with our workshops and gathering community input, we really do have to help folks understand the issue of eligibility. It's not clear for some folks, although the guidelines clearly identify eligibility. For some reason, we still had people applying that were not eligible for this fund. And I think it's understanding that these funds are specific to cultural arts, and that may be the misunderstanding. Miscalculation of funding requests is also an issue. People would ask for more than they were eligible for. Continued demonstrated challenges in developing budgets. Developing a concise budget that asks specifically for what the project costs will be and not other costs that are not allowed in this application process. And then understanding the purpose of the LOI. We had some folks tell us, well, you accepted my LOI, so how come now I can't apply? And in some cases, that occurred because they didn't have their state clearance at the point of the LOI. We informed them of that, but they still were able to open the application portal, because if they got their clearance by the deadline for the application, then we would accept the application. So a few things in the application process that we have to address. The adjudication process, panelist participation, identification of conflict of interest, attrition. Some people signed up to be panelists and agreed, understood the time commitment, and then at the time of the panel hearing, failed to come. Fortunately, because we had a deadline for all scores to be submitted, that didn't impact anyone's score. Because all scores were submitted early, we were able to take an average, and if panelists didn't participate in the discussion, their scores were still entered. We also offered a public process for the panel review, and the jury's still out on whether or not that was helpful or not. I think we need to think about that. Misunderstanding the grants process. There's still a huge misunderstanding of how the grants process works, and understanding that panels are made up of people. Those people each bring a different frame of reference and understanding to the process. And so from year 1 to year 2, you might have done really well in year 1. And of course, in year 1, we had a lot more money. But it's a new panel the next year. And that panel may view things differently. And so maybe in year 2, you didn't get the same result. That's common in all grants processes, but it is a hard pill to swallow when you're new to this process. Resources. The state does not update its reporting on a regular enough basis. So some people who got all their reporting in for their Attorney General clearance, still missed our deadline because the state hadn't updated their site, and there was really nothing we could do to assist them at that point. There's no direct program costs allocated to support technical assistance, outreach, and marketing. Those are additional costs to the Arts Council that we are currently assuming. The Arts Council currently subsidizes this process from our general fund, something that we cannot do indefinitely. We appreciate the City Council support in the 2025-26 budget. It will be great assistance to offset our costs in this next year. But we're hoping that we will be able to get that support in the following years. In the words of Robert Hayden, U.S. Poet Laureate Emeritus, art is not escape, but a way of finding order in chaos, a way of confronting life. I encourage our community and commissioners to find the order in this chaos and recognize that with open dialogue, all issues can be confronted. Current guidelines were created over a series of public meetings. The policy recommendations for this year's process were also done in an open and inclusive process. The Arts Council and PRAC Subcommittee have already begun planning a path forward with more public meetings to access information and continue to improve the application process. We encourage you to accept the recommendations before you so that we can begin to experience the great work that will and has been done by our arts community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Chavez, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
It's unclear from, you may have said it, I missed it. Did all the applicants, were they required to take the workshop?
They weren't required. Wait, are you talking about applications for the grant?
Yes.
Or panelists?
Applications for the grant, were they required to take workshops?
They were not required.
Okay.
They were made available.
Okay. You've said the public panel process, the jury was still out on that. Could you say more? I don't quite understand that statement.
The Arts Council chose to open the panel for observation so that community applicants could observe the process. That was something that we chose to do for transparency so that people could learn what this looks like from the outside and kind of unveil that mystique. But some people who attended used the process for other purposes, so I'm just not sure what we do with that.
Understand that better. You talked about the need for support in terms of materials, PR, communications, et cetera. Do you have some idea what percentage of or absolute number of dollars you're looking for that to be budgeted?
Yes, and I'm thankful to Director Aguirre because he did include that in this year's proposed budget.
And is that a percentage of absolute funds or?
No, it's a flat fee. It was a motion that was brought to council during budget, and so we are amending Fresno Art Council's contract to include that additional money.
Great.
So that should be there within 45 days, I believe is the schedule right now. Correct.
And
At
that was
any rate, for the next-
75,000.
That is 75,000. That's additional.
So for the next cycle, that will be funded, in other words?
Yes.
Okay. And then just as a last observation, based on everything and all the work that you've done, I really appreciate it, by the way, and Fresno Arts Council as a whole. But it really seems like the quality and makeup of the panel, the panelists, is really the sort of bottleneck in this process in many ways. their makeup, the recruitment of those people, the demographics, and clearly the participation. Those are all critical. I mean, those are the people ultimately making the decisions on all of this. Everybody else is just facilitating and following those recommendations. So I think that is the area in which we can focus and get the most improvement in this process, just as an observation from the subcommittee's level.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have one. On this page here, it shows unincorporated Fresno County 12.5. There's no grants that went to that group, is there? Or how does that define? I thought it was city only.
I think is that the panelist chart?
Yes.
Panelists can come from outside of the city.
Okay, thank you.
At the last full commission meeting, we did hear public comment suggestion around, potentially awarding additional money. And I think some confusion was created by the way that the money allocated to this bucket was presented in one of the budget workshops. Can you just clarify what is available, or, help people, I guess maybe help with the understanding of that issue?
Sure. The 6.3 plus that is being recommended is absolutely down to the penny the only funds we have for this grants process. And in that presentation that Commissioner Ward is referencing, it was a parks budget presentation, and it identified the arts bucket with two allocations, the one for the current year and the projection for next year. And that totaled over 11 million. And I believe that's where the confusion is.
So next year, if there was given a little bit over 6 million out, and on the bucket for the budget, it was a little bit over 11 million. So that means it's going to be less money and less applicants that are going to receive funding for round 3.
That's possible. Yes.
And another question I have, were the meetings for the panelists review being recorded, and were they able to be accessed by the public?
No, they weren't accessed by the public.
But they were recorded?
We did get some recording for our own internal use, for our to check our note-taking, but they really didn't turn out very well. They weren't very useful.
So you did your own recording for these meetings. It wasn't like the CMAC or anyone else that were there.
No.
So that might be, if you continue on having these meetings public when the applications are being reviewed by the panel, then maybe we will suggest having CMAC come out and view them, and then they're available to public. So public will be able to see the process and see what's going on. There's a lot of confusion and a lot of assumption around this second round. So I'm just looking at different ideas that we can include in our guidelines when we update our guidelines to make the next round more smoother and a better process. One of the suggestions I have is that a lot of people do not understand what culture and arts means to each and different ethnicity. I would like to see panelists trained on that, as well as a requirement of having the panelists understand and know how to read a budget. I think that's very important for those two qualities to be required, or at least some training offered around the first suggestion that I said when it comes to deciding who's going to be on the review panel.
Thank you. I think at this point, the subcommittee and the Arts Council are looking for all possible suggestions so that we can incorporate them next year.
And do you have repeated panelists from last year, from last round to this round?
We did have a couple.
Okay, so you don't know the number offhand.
I don't know the number.
Okay. That's all for me. Anyone else? Thank you. I'm going to go out to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Would any member of the public like to make a comment regarding this item? You will have up to 3 minutes. The first card that I have in my hand, I believe, is Jackson Kaital.
It's Jackson Keitel. First of all, thank you very much. The work that you've been doing is so important, and I'm going to try to speak to general issues and not get into the weeds. I'm a Fresno resident for 5 years. I'm a retired college president. Very happy to be out of that set of crosshairs. And I've joined the board, the volunteer board, all volunteer board of the San Joaquin Valley Town Hall. An institution that I've come to really embrace. I don't know how much people know about it. It's a generational thing in some ways. People know a lot if their hair is a certain color, and if it's not that color, they know less. We were founded in 1938. To give you some idea about the amount of impact it has, we sponsor all volunteers, 25 board members, and about 100 volunteers otherwise. We sponsor 6-7 speakers downtown at the Soroyan. In the last decade, I've seen the data, it's about 50,000 attendees. That's not a small number. About 10,000 of that number, or actually in addition to that, 10,000 are students who attend for free. I mention this because we're a legacy organization. We've been around for a long time, and it's a marvelous thing that an organization can survive that long and do that. And I want to give you a little bit of a sense of what the actual grant did for us last year, and I'm not going to speak to our specific purposes for this year. I think what Town Hall's leadership is doing is using the grant to develop a strategic plan that needs to shake up the organization a little bit, to be blunt about it. I don't speak for the organization, but I'm a longtime administrator, like many of you, and at times we need to sort of shake things up a little bit. So one of the big goals that we have in the plan is to try to address the remarkable diversity of Fresno, which we have not done as well in the past. We've done another piece of work on rebranding the organization. So in general, this remarkable program you've developed for us has done a great thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Carolyn Thomas.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm the short one. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm Carolyn Thomas. I'm representing Soli Deo Gloria, Fresno's premier women's ensemble. Thanks so much for listening to all of us tonight. And I want to say a special thanks to the Fresno Arts Council staff. This was our first year in doing a grant proposal, so they were really supportive and very helpful whenever we had questions. So we really appreciated that. Please, tonight, could you release the funds and all the EAAC grant awards? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Pam Whalen.
Good afternoon. I'm with the San Joaquin Valley Media Alliance, and we publish the Community Alliance newspaper, and we have been funded both years to get the information out about all the wonderful arts programming that is going on in Fresno, and we do that in 2 languages, both English and Spanish. We publish a calendar, and we do also articles about particular artists or groups. And I'm here to ask you to please release the funds. We have been running the calendar since July. But we really, really would appreciate getting the support for us to continue to provide this service to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Julia Copeland.
Hi, I'm Julia Copeland, violinist and retired arts administrator. I side with those urging immediate release of Measure P arts funding per promises already made. But I have been listening with interest to comments offered in these chambers criticizing the funding process itself. I see no contradiction in urging the release of funds that have been awarded according to an outdated system, while at the same time urging that the system be updated to produce ever more equitable outcomes in the future. I have referred to competitive grant making as the Hunger Games, and that comparison is not original with me, but it is apt. Competitive grant making pits arts providers against each other instead of offering them any way to truly work in the public interest, or perhaps even more to the point, without offering any way that they can work together as community members. In the Hunger Games model, each artist or arts organization has to invent the community benefit wheel from scratch for its own project. What would be really great would be some infrastructure. I mean by that some kind of robust, centralized assistance with reaching and serving those members of the community who are not currently being served and whom Measure P funds are specifically intended to reach. Obviously, that is a subject for future discussions, which I look forward to having when I'm invited along with the rest of the community to the series of public meetings I know PRAC will be offering as they work on new and improved EAAC guidelines for 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Johannes. I'm not going to even try your last name. I'm not doing it.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Johannes Reinders. I've spoken several times before in public comment. Again, I urge you, unfortunately, we have to redo these scores because this process has been violated legally to such an extent. Again, I'm going to read comments that occurred during panel review sessions spoken by FAC Director Dr. Chavez. Friday, August 8, 5:56 p.m. 1,500 Punjabi youth does sound like more than they can do, especially in this demographic. Now, if they were including Clovis residents in their account, maybe they could do it because there is a large Punjabi population in Clovis. I don't think there's enough in the West Fresno area for them to do what they say they can do. Friday, August 15th, 5:57 p.m. If they are only taking students into their project with strong musical skills, that's not going to be Southeast Fresno students, is it? Friday, August 8th, 8:01 p.m. But when you look at the budget, a 1,000 square foot mural should have a going rate of $65 per square foot. This is the going market rate that we have observed all over California, including areas like Los Angeles. If you do the calculations of this budget, the cost is more than $65 per square foot. By Fresno Arts Council staff members constantly and unprompted, intentionally inserting their opinions into the panel review sessions, the city of Fresno is violating California Penal Code Section 424, misappropriation of public funds, by appropriating public funds for their own use or the use of another. These actions also violated the grant guidelines of the 2025-2026 EAAC grant, as well as the City of Fresno Measure P ordinance, by not correctly following the impartial panel review and scoring process outlined thereof. By forbidding electronic devices during panel review sessions for the purpose of taking notes for observers, the City of Fresno, since FAC was a contractor of the City of Fresno is violating California constitutional free speech via prior restraint, censoring speech or other expression before the speech happens. These actions also violated California Penal Code 632, subsection E, by public officers, employees, or agents restraining all other parties from recording a government event, while they recorded the event without consent of the other parties. These actions also violated California law regarding accessibility under the Brown Act as amended by AB 3035 by denying equal access to all individuals the opportunity to participate in any government program, service, or activity. By this commission's grant subcommittee holding its meetings in secret without correctly noticing and holding their meetings to the public, the City of Fresno is violating California law under the Brown Act in an identical fashion to the lawsuit already underway against the city's unlawful budget subcommittee. There's danger to the funds of Measure P. I want Measure P to survive. I don't want it to all be sued away. I don't want the city to be sued. It's my city. But I want the guidelines that were set up for this year to be followed. We are bound by the guidelines of this year. I apologize. You must follow them. You cannot approve the scores as is, not without addressing the extreme harm that was done in this process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Alicia Rodriguez.
Evening. I could talk about the compromise of scoring due to documented out of protocol and inappropriate input that you keep dancing to not release. Conflicts of interest that continue to be uncovered. Diversity being implemented by a very non-diverse subcommittee. Decisions about financial distribution by category being made by the same subcommittee. Irreversible damage to the process to date due to Brown Act noncompliance. Follow the money. Looking at the Horizon Awards, Legacy Since Arts to Zoo, other foundations that are correlated. We could talk about how microaggressions around observations by the community are framed as personal attacks, or the common thread of concerns across panelists, applicants, and observers framed as used for other purposes other than actual concerns. And I encourage the community to talk and look at those things. But on this Indigenous Peoples Day, the irony is especially thick. So I'm going to talk about something that personally and members of the community are clearly not okay with: erasure. Now, just because some people thought the process was just fine or even had the nerve to condescend to non-awarded and even awarded folks as not understanding the process, or some even made effort to name supposedly diverse organizations while dismissing real concerns from the folks who were affected, that doesn't negate those who have been negatively impacted or were suppressed or deemed not worthy by the few to be visible at all. What's worse is some of you are the same to wonder what is so wrong with this country, and before you say that's not relevant, look at the fact that we won't face the most basic equity issues in rooms like these. Because that stuff I mentioned at the outset, those are facts and observations, and if they bother you, then maybe sit with why. And it's continually disappointing that many play see or hear no evil until it's at their doorstep. Well, at this rate, where do you think this process is headed? I too love this city. I want to see it thrive. I want to see all of our communities receive the funding in an equitable manner. Fresno has a lot of soul searching to do, and privilege is not a bad word, it's a responsibility. Corruption isn't born overnight, and honestly, sometimes it's not even malicious. People are people. But if those, especially those of you in positions of oversight over taxpayer funds, don't pay attention to your responsibility, then it's moot. Responsibility to put the ego aside and work with community, to take the feedback and grow, to take the subjectivity of connection, bias, and financial influence and connection that compromise the integrity of the awards. Now, I'm aware after numerous times in this hall for various reasons that you guys are about to pass the funds for this year, which is fine. But the call for accountability is not over. If actual Proud Boys, city officials, and the like couldn't chase me off my block fighting the Tower Theater for a couple of years and other social justice issues, let's believe that those of us who hold integrity and human rights in this dear venture are going to press to make this 30-year gift to ourselves something to be proud of.
Thank you. Next speaker, Hugo Morales.
Good evening. My name is Hugo Morales, Co-Executive Director for Radio Bilingüe, and EAA recommended applicant and established operating support. We urge the PRAC to move additional funds into the pool to support additional emerging project support applicants. This program category received the most applicants with 114 eligible, representing 58% of the total submissions. Yet only 61% or 54% of them are recommended for funding, compared to the other three categories in which 86 to 96% of the applicants are recommended for funding. Applicants did not have the same odds of success, which is unfair, especially considering these are relatively small groups, many of them using fiscal sponsors, and already on an uneven playing field in terms of staff capacity and also in the writing proposals. To remedy this inequity, we propose bringing in all those that scored in the 3 range in emerging projects to be funded at 30% of their request. This would add another 32 groups and require an additional $442,577, bringing up the percent funding to 81%, much closer to the percent funded in the 3 other categories. At the September 15th PRAC meeting, we noted that it was noted 11.4 million in the arts and culture funding is available for this year, of which 6.3 million is slated for distribution in this grant cycle. It appears there are additional resources that could be utilized. As the vice chair of the October 6th subcommittee of the PRAC meeting said that there were no other funds available. Then we urge you to reallocate some of the 6.3 million under consideration. We also respectfully request a breakdown of the arts and culture budget and the timing of this release of these funds so that spending be better understood and we better understand the resources available. Let's bring greater equity to the process in this cycle to fund more of the emerging projects and work on changes to address guidelines and process improvements in the review for future cycles. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Christina Soto.
Hello, Christina Soto, before you again on Indigenous Peoples Day with a few important reminders before you vote to approve the expanded access to arts and culture grant recommendations presented by the Fresno Arts Council and EAAC subcommittee. Just want to remind you all, there have been no significant actions taken by the FAC or the subcommittee or the city to address the dozens of complaints the community has presented to you all regarding bias, discrimination, undue influence, and conflict of interest. Conflict of interest that, again, include not only FAC's Lilia Chavez, but also the subcommittee chair, Laura Ward, who is not only a fiscal sponsor for the Fresno Arts Council, but also a former FAC board member who served up until 2023 when she stepped down as vice president to serve on this subcommittee. During the October 6th EAAC subcommittee meeting, Commissioner Ward acknowledged that they have not listened to any of the panel meeting recordings, nor do they plan on listening to the recordings. However, she did make it a point to discuss panelist bias, which she assured us would not show up in these recordings, even though she had not listened to them. The EAAC subcommittee didn't just ignore the community's complaints, but they used their platform to gaslight us, redirect attention from our complaints to their perceived issues against the panelists, applicants, and fiscal sponsors who have spoken out. They've opted to use their power to seek to further limit access for emerging organizations by suggesting withholding grant funds and punishing applicants if they don't hit their benchmarks at what could essentially be less than 30% funding. Additionally, they are now suggesting further pushing out community from the process by bringing in panelists from outside of Fresno. Yet, no one seems concerned with addressing any of the conflicts tied to FAC. Some might consider that retaliation. What the subcommittee and FAC have done is nothing short of collusion to award their friends, partners, and donors with some of the largest grant amounts. These are some of the same people that we have also heard week after week profess what a wonderful experience they had and how we should continue to push forward and be grateful for the crumbs being thrown at emerging organizations which amount to less than 20% allocated in the guidelines. This process is more than flawed. It's rigged. If you vote to accept these recommendations without taking any action to remediate the community's concerns, you are voting in support of this corruption, further perpetuating harm, and co-signing unethical and potentially illegal practices in posterity. I urge you to vote no until these matters are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Joe Pickford.
Thank you. I'm here. Let's see. Thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm here in this context on behalf of the Fresno Historical Society, and Elizabeth Laval contributed to what we hope is a constructive suggestion. Several grant recipients have voiced their frustration with the timetable of the process. By the time funds are awarded in October, they have only 6 months to complete their work and spend all of the money. After that, they have several months of downtime while they await the adjudication process for the next grant year. I propose a simple solution to solve this problem. Separate the grant work timeline from the application timeline. For example, if funds are awarded in October, then grantees would have nearly a full year, say until the following September, to complete and report on their work. Meanwhile, the application deadline for the next year might fall in April or May. The previous year's grantees would report on the progress of their ongoing work as a part of the application process for the next year's grant. After applying, they would then be able to continue their work in progress using the previous year's funds until the next funding awards are announced. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Parvin Malik.
Good evening. My name is Parvin Malik. I am here to speak from my heart in support of approving the 2025-26 Expanded Access to Art and Culture Fund recommendations. For many of us in this community, these grants are not just numbers on a budget. They are opportunities. They give life to programs that connect people, inspire creativity, and celebrate the diversity that makes Fresno so unique. They provide spaces where children discover their talent, where elders share their stories, and where families come together to learn and feel proud of their heritage. When you approve this funding, you are investing in more than art. You are investing in hope, in understanding, and in the future of a stronger and more united Fresno. I urge you to move these recommendations forward so we can continue building a city where every resident has access to the arts and the power they bring to transform lives. Thank you for your time and for believing in the power of culture and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Vivian Paz.
Good evening. My name is Vivian Velasco Paz. I'm a board member with Arte Americas. And Arte Americas was recommended to receive 60% of what we applied for in the process. And I'm here to ask you all to approve that process. We're 2 years into a process, and I want to commend the Fresno Arts Council for playing a very critical role when we were working on Measure P to make sure that there were funding for the arts. And I think their heart's in the right place. I think, yes, there's room for improvement, and the feedback, while it's harsh sometimes, is going to help the process be better, and we're going to be better for it in the long term. It's heartbreaking when when you apply and you don't get funding, but it happens, and we work. There's going to be funding for future years. So the people who are going to be impacted if we stop the process are not just the arts organizations, but the community who are counting on us to provide access to the arts. Right now, Arte Americas is our busiest season with Dia de Muertos. We expect at least 3,000 visitors from now until the end of December. And we need our staff, and we need to have the security in place that the funding will help us perform in order to make it accessible for our community. We are very good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. We, as a board, watch very closely over our finances, work with the CPA, audit, even when we don't need an audit, to make sure we have public trust. And in terms of the conflict of interest comments that I've been hearing, in small cities like ours, we're bound to have situations where there could be a potential conflict of interest. And as long as it's disclosed and the decision maker is not a part of those funding decisions, we should be able to overcome those conflicts. Lilia Chavez does have daughters who followed in her footsteps, and I would expect them, having an arts administrator watching them as children, to be, and having gone to college to study arts, to be very skilled and talented grant writers, and it would make sense that they would do well in applying for those. So our organization should not be punished because of the familiar relationship, as long as there were safeguards in place and she wasn't a part of that decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Monica Madrigal. Sorry if I butchered it up.
Hello, my name is Monica Madrigal. I was a panelist on this year's grant. And I know the FAC would like you to believe we had more power than we actually did, but we didn't. We had 2 Zoom sessions to tell us how to do what we were supposed to do. They were vague, they were unplanned. We didn't have anything in person. When I reached out, something that I needed regarding a conflict of interest, seeing multiple names on, I never got a response. We weren't allowed to talk about funding being allotted. It was basically just your scores, thank you, and bye. This whole thing is tainted. And if you're not smelling it, there's a problem with you. And I'm hearing a lot of people, a lot of people want their money, but a lot of these are established orgs. What the hell did they do before Measure P? They were able to get it then. You have organizations like the Fresno Philharmonic, the Fresno Art Museum. They're not accessible. They're not accessible to people like me. They're not accessible to people in rural communities. Sorry, but I have no homies going to Philharmonic. But you hear Philharmonic saying, oh, we're bringing the sound to Michoacan. Yeah, you love our culture to our face, but you call ice behind our backs. So it's not accessible. It's accessible to people that know other people. It's accessible to people that have written this to fit what they want. So no, this isn't for us. And shame on you for missing the mark and taking advantage of taxpayers and their money and people that genuinely believe in the arts and need it.
Next speaker, Nazarene Johnson.
Hey everyone, Nasreen Johnson. I'm here as a community member. I wanted to be really clear about a couple of points. I was really excited and gleefully volunteered to be a panelist, and I feel like I understood my role, and so did the folks who were on my panel. I don't believe that in our group, panelists were the problem. I had an issue with folks not being able to record when we did know that they were being recorded for note-taking purposes and that those files are not available to the public. I don't know what was referenced when it was mentioned that recordings would be used for other purposes when you asked the question. The issue that I hear and that I witnessed with my own two eyes as part of the process is that it wasn't transparent and open, and that it wasn't equitable. As you've heard, panelists, the role that I was in, I got to apply a score and discuss my score with other panelists, and then the facilitator facilitated, asked us some neutral questions, but then also peppered in some comments. So I have a concern with that. That did influence people's scores. And when panelists only get to score from 1 to 5, what happens when, out of the 29 projects that we were scoring in my group, what happens when 10 of them maybe got 5s, or I'm sorry, it was 1 to 6. Let me correct that. 1 to 6. So what happens when a couple get 6, the rest get 5? Those are really big chunks of groups of people. And my question was, how does this get allocated behind closed doors? How do you have a difference between multiple 5s? And who decides that? And then furthermore, I understand that established arts orgs fill a need in the community and that they could use some dollars to expand and their offerings to new audiences. But the emerging arts is where we truly expand access, because the people that are artists that are working in our community in culture and arts, they are the ones that bring the type of art that folks in our community want to see. And also, how on earth can we do an emerging project with 60% of the funding? Like, that doesn't seem, it's like buying ingredients, 60% of your ingredients and promising this for dinner, and then you buy almost, a little over half of the ingredients. How on earth can you deliver what you've promised with that? You just can't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Grisanti.
Hello, members of the PRAC. Hello, community members. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day to everyone. My name is Grisanti Avendaño, and I'm coming to you as a panelist and also as a lifelong Fresno resident. This is a really hard, complex process to play in that spirit. Just wanted to offer some recommendations and also some insight as a panelist myself. I think the very first thing is that there were just clear boundaries crossed on individual comments, right, that did impact the process. I also want to hold grace in that this is also peopling, right? This is also us peopling and lack of policies, is my assumption. And, I also just want to name, as a woman in leadership as well, that we hold women in leadership to a very high standard. So I also just want to name that for you as well. That is a thing, and I think we do it even more when it's people that look like us. I've experienced that as an Indigenous woman in leadership as well. And it's a hard role. It's a hard role for one organization to hold a process, at this scale, at this magnitude, for a city of the size that is Fresno, of the diversity that is Fresno, of the ways that we love Fresno, those of us that have been here. And so I think I also want to just ask for a clear and consistent kind of evaluation process every year so that we can be clear on what are the needed shifts, the needed changes that need to happen. And I also understand that that also takes time, that also takes capacity, and it takes in bringing that expertise, right, that unbiased opinion as well to be a part of that process. The other thing is really like meeting the request, right? Either for you all as PRAC or an external partner to really bring impacted members, right? Organizations and FIC together so we could really continue strengthening this process, which, you know, will take respect on all sides, integrity and collaboration. We can't do it without that. As the panelists and organizers, there's just ways to strengthen and streamline communication for panelists and the understanding of the rubric. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Smiley.
Thank you all for this meeting. Happy Indigenous Days to you all. My name is Smiley G. I was awarded, thank you all, first of all, to you all committee members, PRAC committee members, also the Fresno Arts Council, thank you, and also my fiscal sponsor, Dulce Up Front. I wouldn't be here without any of them, so thank you all. Thank you for the voters that voted for all this. I see we come here as a community, and that's what we really are. I mean, listen, I could use every penny right now, especially since we should have already been working on our grant from July to next June right now. And a lot of us are being pressed because we can't deliver if we don't have the funds. So that's just real talk. But at the same time, I feel my comrades who feel very disenfranchised. And there's a problem there. Thank God I'm not the one that have to make the decision. You all have to. But I know that you take in hopefully in mind the spirit of what we're trying to do here. As a village, we're bringing arts to the community. But at the same time, if one of us are disenfranchised, then really all of us are disenfranchised somehow. And I know that in the future, we can talk about the future, but people need to get paid now. Not just those that are promised to get some funding, but those that didn't get the funding. That's why the disenfranchisement fosters. So I'm just torn between the two. And as a community member, I just really hope that you all can somehow take into play those that need to get paid now, but then those that they got so much less that they can't even do the same project because of the scores or they didn't get any funding. I really liked what Hugo Morales said here when he came up here in his suggestion. I think it's a different approach, and I hope that you all have the wisdom and insight to figure out this really difficult time. I know this is only our second year, and we're trying to do it right. And we're entrusting you all to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Veronica Chavez.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Chavez. I am with Los Niños de Aztlán Dance Studio. We are a 501c3, and in full transparency, I'm also Lilia's daughter. I would like to share that our organization was ineligible this year, and we did not receive funding. I am also a practicing artist and teaching artist in Fresno Unified, and I would like to speak to what my organization that I'm with, Los Niños de Aztlán, was able to do with funding last year as recipients. We are a studio that's been around for over 45 years in Fresno. We have operated on love for our community for most of this time, all of this time. Last year was our first time applying for grant funding. With that funding, we were able to hold capacity building workshops for our board. We were able to have a clear understanding of what a board does, what our budget should look like, and how we can grow for the future. We were able to really invest in our staff and grow our list of teaching artists. That's what these funds do, right? They help organizations and artists who are doing the work because we love the work, because we believe in what we do, and it helps us to get stronger footing under us. I absolutely hear that it's hard to apply for something and not get funded or get partially funded. That's happened to me as an independent artist multiple times. And what you do is you don't give up on that, because why would you spend all the time dreaming this up? If it's something you really want to do, you're not going to let it fall. What you're going to do is you're going to reach out to your community members, you're going to reach out to your other folks that you know that also got partially funded, and you're going to make something happen. I have been really disappointed throughout this process, because I see that there's trusted community members who are providing misinformation. We hear folks giving timestamps from meetings that shouldn't have been recorded by private citizens, but then how do they have timestamps if they weren't recorded? It's been a really frustrating process, and I have been still hyping folks up, getting them ready to write next year, offering to help folks write. I helped folks write this year also, because that's what you do if you believe in your community and you believe in what we're doing. So I encourage y'all to move forward in approving the funding so that folks can get to the work they need to do, so that artists can start to figure out how they're going to collaborate and make things happen, because nobody's here doing the art just for the money, honestly. We're here because we want to do these things and because we believe in them. I really hope that the folks who are creating the misinformation, holding private meetings, and giving information that is not what was coming from the Fresno Arts Council during the application process, I hope that that doesn't happen next year. I really encourage folks to come to the Fresno Arts Council meetings and webinars to get appropriate information so that this can be a smoother process next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jasmine Moore.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Moore. I was recommended for 90% funding. Thank you all who are participating in making Measure P possible. I'm exactly who this process was intended to work for. I'm a little black girl from Southeast Fresno, living below the poverty line with a dream of being a thriving artist and arts educator. My project blends the best of institutional and communal education, immersing a group of creatives in financial literacy, learning how to apply for funding, budget, and price their work, while plugging them into the incredible and diverse cultural arts hubs in this city that have nourished me personally, while offering funding, space, and support to produce and showcase their work. Last week, I heard a Fresno Arts Museum representative say that they serve underprivileged communities. I went to Air, Greenberg Elementary, Lawless, Tenaya, and I graduated from the UCSF Doctors Academy at Sunnyside. It wasn't until I attended Northside schools that I heard the phrasing underprivileged. Not because of my accomplishments or experiences, but because of their lack of understanding of where I came from. I am a classically trained vocalist and saxophonist with acceptance letters from UC schools and HBCUs. Southeast Fresno did that. Here's what I'd like to see. The grant contractor take an active interest in communities like Southeast and West Fresno, team building and offering info sessions in accessible locations and connecting with those who are already doing the work here. So these opportunities aren't just coming to us from outsiders, but with us, by people who understand what it means to be underserved, not underprivileged. To fund and build relationships here is to truly invest in us, and there is plenty more where I came from. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Christina.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone for showing up here today. Sometimes it takes a lot. Let's see. I'm just here to learn personally. I feel like I consider myself a part of the creative workforce here in Fresno. So I do feel, like I'm in this for the long run. And I'm not going to take sides too strongly because, frankly, I need a job, just like in general. I am a caretaker for my elderly grandmother, and so that kind of limits how much time I can devote to my profession and to my art form. And I went to a lot of the free resources that were available to me in my application. I was a bit disheartened in the process. I think some people have raised some concerns over the panel process, the turnaround time on the questions. The categories were also challenging to find where I belonged as an individual, and overall structure of feedback. I'm still kind of fuzzy on where I can put my feedback to best use, where it's actually, in a conducive way. It seems like there's, some distrust, hearing things from word of mouth rather than being able to show up in person. I would have loved to be invited to the panel review so I could have, got a bit more in-depth feedback. I did receive an email that it was happening that day. So yeah, I'm learning a lot. I'm really I'm going to stay tuned, obviously, for next year. And, that's my first one. I would love to see a bit more conversation around the structure for creative workforce development, fairness, some more workshops on grant writing, I would say mediation, potentially for the panelists. I want everybody to win in my city, and I would also like the opportunity to kind of be amongst peers to support the real placemakers of this city. I think the people that bring all of us downtown aren't really seeing a lot of support. So just some good old community building. I'm available as a resource as well. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone online?
Yes, we have 4 speakers online. 5 speakers online. First, we have Amy Kitchener.
Good evening. This is Amy Kitchener, Executive Director of the Alliance for California Traditional Arts. We're an EAAC recommended applicant in the established operating support for 60% funding. I've been following the grants process closely for many years, including observing 4 of the panels this year, and I do share many concerns that have been shared by others. I appreciate that the FAC and PRAC have said they want to engage the public and will consider reforms for the next cycle, and I look forward to participating in the process. One very meaningful action you could take tonight would be to move additional funds into the pool to support additional emerging project support applicants. This category got the most applicants, with 114 representing 58% of all the applicants, but only 54% of them are recommended for funding, which is a huge gap compared to the other 3 categories where you're recommending between 86 and 96% of the applicants to be funded. To me, that is a really gross inequity, and that it's basically, this group was really set up for failure. That they did not have the same odds of success is not fair, especially considering they had the most hoops to jump through, many using fiscal sponsors. and not having a lot of staffing capacity to write grants per se. So I want to just propose again what Ugo Morales said early in the meeting. Bring up all those threes. That represents a fair proposal eligible for funding. Bring them up and fund them at 30%. That would give you another 32 groups. It would require another $442,000, but it would bring up this category to be funded at 81%, which would be much closer to the percent funded by other categories. It's still unclear what the rationale for the breakdown of funding by category is to me, and I've never heard that discussed here at PRAC or by the Arts Subcommittee. A lot of funders base the allocation of the pool on the percent of requests, so the representation of the pool translates into greater dollars in those categories. Today you clarified that there is no other funding. And then I would urge you to reallocate some of the 6.3 million distribution under consideration. And also respectfully request a breakdown of the arts and culture budget and the timing of its release and spending so we can all better understand what's available now and in the future. It is confusing because I also noted a similar number, over $11 million, was in the parks budget presented in last fiscal year, and over $9 million went out in grants. So I'm wondering how timing of funding impacts the grants budget and would request further explanation.
Next, we have Kyle Lopez Schmidt.
Good evening, PRAC Commission. Kyle Lopez Schmidt, South Tower Community Land Trust. In previous meetings, I've highlighted, what I experienced when attending 3 of the panel reviews, which included significant amount of bias from the Fresno Arts Council, including bias against our project and even misleading information or factually untrue information shared about our budget. So those were really concerning for me. Also like to highlight that in this process where we're asking for more of Fresno Arts Council, understand that additional funding may be required, but I think Lilia, your budget may be, to use your words against our project, your budget is quite inflated for the work that we're witnessing here today with the level of bias and the lack of even diverse ways of seeing the zip code presentation. There's no map, there's no heat map of really information that would help this panel review where we're meeting the goals and where we're not. I would echo comments from Amy Kitchener around reallocating funds from the established organization General Ops, which under the guidelines is only supposed to receive 40% of the funding, but is allocated to receive 49.7%, with the other categories, established projects supposed to be receiving 40%, and the emerging projects and General Ops supposed to receive 20% total, 10% for each category. So each of those are underfunded at the benefit of established organization, general operating support, which I think is exactly the opposite of what we should be driving for with the Measure P funds to reach expanded access to arts and culture. Our established organizations do need support, but not at the detriment of the emerging organizations that are here to carry on this work into future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Omi Lopez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, thank you. This is Ome, co-director of Dulce Upfront. Commissioner Ward, hello. Your October 6th statement as chair of the EAAC subcommittee acknowledged that Dulce Upfront fiscally sponsored dozens of applicants because of the lack of accessible options for community-based artists. Yet in the same breath, you proposed that if a sponsored applicant is late submitting a final report, both the applicant and the fiscal sponsor would be barred from applying for 2 years. That is punitive and retaliatory. It penalizes the very organizations doing the heavy lifting to make public funding reachable for historically excluded communities. Instead of punishment, we need capacity building shared resources, templates, and technical support for fiscal sponsors who are stepping up in where the system still fails. And while you mentioned addressing conflicts of interest by bringing in outside panelists, the real guardrails should come from training, compensating, and trusting Fresnans to serve as reviewers. Finally, I want to ask directly, why has there been no acknowledgement or correction of the fact that the EAAC subcommittee itself is composed entirely of white members? This is an arts and cultural fund meant to reflect Fresno's diversity. How can we talk about equity or representation when the very body overseeing these decisions doesn't embody it? Equity begins with who is at the table. I will also add, there is a deep inequity and lack of transparency by design in how this process operates. Lilia says that during the panel review process, she opened to applicants for learning purposes, but then implies that people who attend use the process for other purposes. That reaction is deeply concerning. It's another example of how she takes zero accountability and is not held accountable despite multiple letters from panelists and applicants raising concerns about her behavior. That is not leadership, that is a failure of it. There is so much more I could share, but not in 3 minutes. What I will say is this: Lilia is a liability to the integrity and the trust of this program. Fresno deserves leadership that reflects accountability, transparency, and true cultural equity. Regardless of the fact that Lilia says the records aren't good, Commissioner McCoy, why not check it yourself? What's the harm? Commissioner Duran, can you please, I'm asking you, please, listen to those recordings. And to all the artists and organizations stepping up and speaking out, thank you. Instead of demanding we get our money already, you're demanding something far more important: transparency, fairness, and justice in how that money is distributed. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Next, we have Derek Payton.
Good evening. My name is Derek Payton, and I'm the Executive Director of Root Access, a community hackerspace and makerspace in the Tower District, and we were recommended for emerging organization operations support. To start, I'd like to suggest for future cycles that the presentation given by Dr. Chavez earlier be given when funding recommendations are first released, not at the final vote. Doing so would make the process more transparent and give the community a clearer understanding of how these decisions are made. Over the past many weeks, the arts community has felt very much in the dark as this whole thing has unfolded. Next, Dr. Chavez mentioned earlier that the jury is still out on whether the public panel sessions were helpful. I would like to say that they were, because that's how I know that our organization received high marks from nearly every panelist. All but one scored us in the 5s, and one outlier scored us a 2. That outlier panelist was participating remotely over Zoom, left the meeting early, and was not present when our application was discussed. When I requested the panel notes after the intent to award release, they confirmed what I witnessed: extremely positive comments across the board, except for a single outlier. The written comments from that panelist also show our application was judged using criteria not applicable to our category, and I quote, "would have loved to see more concrete examples tied to numbers. For example, with this grant, we want to provide X amount of free memberships for XYZ community," end quote. General operations support is specifically for core expenses, rent, utilities, insurance, and things like that. The stuff that keeps our doors open. Providing memberships to a particular group is a project-specific outcome, not a general ops one. That invalid score dropped our average from the 5s to a 4.6, cutting our recommended funding in half. A single panelist who wasn't present for deliberation should not have the power to override a fair consensus. I also want to echo others' concerns about inappropriate comments made by FAC staff about applications during those sessions. I believe similar comments were made about our own application and our organization, but as we were prevented from using electronic devices and FAC has not released their recordings, I'll refrain from addressing that further for now. Furthermore, Dr. Chavez mentioned earlier that a number of emerging organizations general operations support was a small percentage, but that a number of those orgs were sponsoring additional projects. As an organization fiscally sponsoring 2 projects, I have to point out that the 10% of the project budget for the organization is for handling the finances, not for general ops support. Fiscally sponsoring projects is irrelevant to our overall funding. So while I'm genuinely grateful for the $12,500 that we've been recommended for, 30% doesn't really move the needle towards giving emerging organizations who by definition need the most help the capacity to stabilize, grow, and build towards sustainability, which is the stated goal of the general operations support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Chris Poltz.
Hello?
Yes.
Yale mi gente. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I am Chris Poltz, a representative and co-founder of UGD. First off, forgive me for not being able to make it to this meeting in person. As my colleague explained in a prior meeting, we are a dedicated dance crew from Fresno, California, founded in 2017. We have proudly hosted and primarily self-funded a number of community dance events, including classes, sessions, showcases, and battles. But in these trying times, that is no longer feasible. As first-time grantees, we confess to feeling a degree of confusion, apprehension, and discouragement, yet we remain hopeful for positive change. While we recognize the need for organizational refinement, the prompt dispersal of the funds is critical to allow us to immediately begin increasing our positive impact on the community. As Fresnans and Chicanos, we are dedicated to honoring Fresno's rich history in street dance by helping to uplift and expand the culture. We are, however, powerless to move forward without the funds. Gracias y piali, mi gente. Adios.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Cecilia Acevedo.
Hello, good evening. My name is Cecilia Acevedo, and I serve on the board of directors for Arte Americas, which is an organization that was recommended. I'm here because I want to express my support for the Fresno Arts Council recommendations for the funding. Arte has been really the cornerstone of arts and culture in our region for more than 3 decades, offering accessible, bilingual, community-driven programming that really celebrates the diversity of the Central Valley. Approval of the recommendations will allow Arte to continue this mission by maintaining our facilities, keeping our galleries open, especially during this really busy season, and supporting the many artists and community groups who rely on our space. This funding helps keep art accessible, alive, and connected to the community it serves. If these recommendations aren't approved, as you heard from many organizations will lose critical support needed for operations, accessibility, and safety, directly impacting artists, staff, and thousands of residents who participate in our programs each year. I want to recognize the concerns of the process and appreciate the recommendations that are being shared to strengthen this process moving forward. I believe we can improve the process while still ensuring the funds reach the community as intended. So on behalf of Arte and myself, I respectfully urge you to approve the recommendations and keep this process moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Boris Nixon.
I'm actually Diane Nixon, representing the California Opera Guild. With many of our staff and artists having multiple affiliations with several other established and emerging arts organizations. Thank you, Ms. Chavez, for the work you've done in moving the process forward and being proactive and embracing areas of necessary improvement. While it is true that some people feel untouched by improvements in access and inclusion, there are many organizations like ours who do prioritize access and inclusion. Nobody would ever be turned away from attending a performance or participating in our programs. So there does seem to be some confusion of some of the public about how access and inclusion are being demonstrated by both emerging and established organizations, and what expanded access means to different people and organizations. Last summer, we saw a huge amount of outpouring, which I initially believed was a wonderfully passionate representation of our city's arts and culture landscape. Several of the attendees I invited, who were board members and major supporters of multiple Fresno arts organizations, and who had lifetimes of experience with the ups and downs of the classical arts across the nation, described the process as shaming musicians and artists into begging for money. That shed light on the ways that many people observing this process might feel. There will obviously be many ways to see the same thing. No process is perfect, and there will be many years of hindsight to improve upon these efforts. There is an expectation that over time processes can improve, but in the meantime, the very goals of the program, which can be fulfilled by the many arts organizations that were recommended for funding, are being unmet. Our organization was not fully funded, but we were grateful for the 60% recommendation, which we knew was sharing in the funds available for many others. Measure P funding allowed us to continue to overcome the crippling effects of COVID-19. These grants represented new hope for the arts stability and expansion following COVID-19's devastating effects on many emerging and established organizations. The delay in approving recommendations, which have left many months of unfunded projects over 2 years, have eroded those hopes and unfortunately further destabilized the arts and culture landscape. We know that this was not the intent, but hope that with future open-mindedness and work together, we can reverse that trend.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Jade McAfee.
Hi, my name's Jade McAfee. I was an applicant who was not awarded funds. And I'm also the founder of the Joy Corps Project, which is an arts and culture organization that centers joy as a public health resource. We applied last year and also this year, and I really value process and learning from the process. What I did experience consistently at both across both years was a lack of room to provide feedback and also to receive feedback, despite the fact that the Cultural Arts Plan centers that as something that's essential to developing a rich cultural landscape in Fresno. And I do think that we wouldn't be here today if there was room for that within the process. I do think that we wouldn't have this split between emerging and established organizations, those funded and not funded, those fully funded and not fully funded, if that was embedded. I also kind of take issue with the fact that critiquing the process is taken as a personal attack on specific individuals and those in leadership. I don't think it's unprofessional for us to bring feedback in this way, and I have heard that critique offered many times by community members and those in leadership. I think it's unprofessional not to have space for that feedback outside of forums like this, which are meant to, move the process forward. I do want to point out that I went to both the private and public meetings regarding this process. And I found that only one type of meeting, usually the private meeting, catered to emerging artists and individual artists, which is unfortunate. I went to the meeting at City Hall hosted by Fresno Arts Council, and it was catered to and focused on established organizations, which I understand there was limited time, but again, the highest need was for those in emerging organizations and individual artists. And when asking for clarity on the rubric, often we were pointed to the Cultural Arts Plan. The only problem was that the rubric doesn't demonstrate a connection to the Cultural Arts Plan. The Cultural Arts Plan provides recommendations for the rollout of the entire Measure P policy. It does not provide a clear rubric or outline of how it is that we should run this grant-making process. Grant-making is a huge undertaking, and I respect the fact that this is a long process, and also there needs to be room for accountability without it being taken so personally. The rubric does need to be improved. I would really like to participate in and have no problem with a competitive grant-making process. I would love to see my peers and community succeed, and that doesn't mean that it has to be me, but there does need to be standards, very clear standards of practice and performance, so that we're not having the questions that we have, and that it's a lot harder to question and mistrust the process. I'd also suggest that there should be alternating years for emerging and established organizations. I'm not quite sure why we're competing with established organizations. It would also give room for there to be more room for feedback throughout the process.
Next, we have Elizabeth Lovell.
Good evening, PRAC. This is Elizabeth Laval. I am the president of the Fresno City and County Historical Society, and I've had the honor to address you before. I just wasn't going to speak tonight, but I felt after listening for this time, I'd like to reconnect the dots between established organizations and emerging organizations. I guess our organization could be called a legacy organization, as one of the oldest in the city of Fresno. It's 106 years. As I've mentioned before, this is a critical year in grants all across the country. We've been devastated at all levels by the lack of grants being afforded to arts and cultural organizations, from Washington, D.C. to Sacramento, and now here in this process. With the government shutdown, any applications that we did have are on hold. So even though we're considered an established organization, that really only matters if there are funds to continue to operate. And one of the things that has been so blessed by this process is the funds we received last year allowed us to sponsor 6 emerging organizations. Now, not all were recommended for approval of grant funds, and some were only recommended at 30%. But we take our responsibility as an established organization, as a legacy organization, seriously, and I don't think it's right to disconnect the two, established and emerging. Those two things all work together to form the one Fresno that we all feel is so important under this EAAC process. It is not common for people to be able to hear sessions, but we did this year. That is a question that the PRAC and the Arts Council will debate with community input. I think that the process has room for improvement, but in the meantime, let us work with our organizations that we do want to help and move forward before it is too late in the year to make our projects come to life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There are no more speakers online.
Thank you. I have 2 more cards in my hand. Ariana Paz Chavez.
Can I lift this up a little bit, please? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Buenas tardes. I almost omitted my middle name out of concern that folks would think that the board member who spoke earlier is a relative of mine. My middle name happens to be Peace, and that's a coincidence. My name is Ariana Paz Chavez. I'm the executive director of Arte Americas. And last year, at the start of the first funding cycle for EAAC Measure P, a reporter asked me if I expected Arte Americas to receive special treatment. My response? My mom, Arte's co-founder and founding executive director, is also the director of the Fresno Arts Council. I'm proud to have been raised by someone who taught me the value of community care, integrity, and mentorship. That's an obvious conflict of interest. Therefore, she will never review or score Arte's application. If she were solely responsible for the distribution of these funds, I'm sure the bar would be set much higher for Arte than for any other applicant. There's not a world in which we would be allowed to rest on our laurels, and I wouldn't have it any other way. We have a responsibility to provide the very best for and with our community, and that's why we're here. Arte was recommended to receive 60% of our request for general operating support, and I'm here today to ask the PRAC to approve this funding recommendation. I'm not particularly proud of Arte's score this year, but I'll take the comments that our application received and aim for a 6 next year. Measure P EAAC was created because for decades our established organizations, even our established organizations, have crawled. At Arte, we need these funds to be distributed so that we can cover basic expenses that keep the thousands of people we engage safe on our property. I'm talking about things like basic elevator inspections and maintenance so that everyone can access our community gallery. For Arte, these funds are about basic access and safety. I want to give a huge thank you to Arte's first full-time professional staff who were only hired after 3 decades of volunteer efforts because of state funding. In the past 10 days, they have opened 4 new exhibitions, and I'm particularly proud that these exhibitions include local, statewide, national, and international talent. In 10 days, we have welcomed approximately 1,500 people through our doors and connected over 100,000 people online to content that celebrates, nurtures, and preserves Latina arts and cultures. We've collaborated with mission-aligned projects by the Fresno Philharmonic, and we've shown up and tabled at public events by CBDIO, Fiestas Patrias, Tierra Mía, and Fresno Unified. When we do this, we support other organizations by sending paid staff. And when asked, we share our limited resources through sponsorship. That's how we walk our values and practice reciprocity in community. The only part of this process that upsets me is the misinformation that has been confusing folks who need these resources and this work. I want to make sure that everyone understands next steps. No one is getting 100% of what they asked for, and we'll all submit budget revisions and revised scopes, essentially making a new commitment. We will not lose eligibility unless we fail to submit our quarterly and year-end reports, and that is accountability. We should report on how we spend public dollars. Let's move forward to...
Next speaker, Michelle. Yes, you.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Ellis-Pracy, and I'm the Executive Director and Chief Curator at the Fresno Art Museum. I've held this job for 10 years. I'm a veteran of the Measure P ballot. We held grassroots events in parks, in organizations, across the city for a year to get this Measure P on the ballot. As a fundraiser in this city, this is the hardest job I've ever done. There is not money for the arts in this town. There used to be, but in the 10 years I've been here, people have passed away who are benefactors, and we rely on this community. So many times in these meetings, I've heard the Fresno Art Museum accused of being elitist, of being wealthy, of not being for everybody. We are this community's museum. There used to be 2 fine art museums in Fresno, and the Metropolitan died a terrible death. And this museum has been here for 76 years. It started as an art center run by artists, and eventually a board was developed, and it became an art museum with the state in the 80s. But this is not an easy road to hoe, and the beauty of Measure P was to show the city of Fresno the fabric of nonprofits and artists in this community. We were all splintered. There was a historical society, there was a museum, there was Art Hop. We weren't together. And Measure P has allowed us to be together, to show the city and the community that they had this wealth in front of them and that they could take advantage of it. And I just encourage that in this second year of grant rounds that has been extremely volatile, and which is sad, it breaks my heart because the arts are too hard to sustain in the first place in this city. And I ask you to honor what the Fresno Arts Council and the people who reviewed our grants recommend to you so that we can go forth and do the job that we set out to do. We're art martyrs. We're not sitting up there spending money willy-nilly because we have it. I find it every day to pay each bill and pay my staff. So I ask you to please think about the fabric that these grants have allowed us to see. And it's fabulous, it's intense, and we just need to go forward with everything that we believe in. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now close public comment. And then I will be asking for some motions on some categories so we can pass these recommendations. I will now close public comment, and I will be asking for some motions for certain recommendations so we can move forward with approving them. No, I have them here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the EAAC Emerging Organizations General Operating Support as recommended by the Fresno Arts Council and the Cultural Arts Subcommittee?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Collier. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Trillo. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. This item is approved. Is there a motion to approve the Emerging Organization Project-Specific Support as recommended by the Fresno Arts Council and the Cultural Arts Subcommittee?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Dolan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Collier. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Item is approved. Is there a motion to approve the EAAC General Operations Support as recommended by the Fresno Arts Council and the Cultural Arts Subcommittee?
Motion.
Could you repeat that, please?
Is there a motion to approve the EAAC General Operations Support as recommended by the Fresno Arts Council and the Cultural Arts Subcommittee?
I move that we do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Collier. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Trujillo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Is there
Sorry, Commissioner Ward had to step out. She does have a conflict on the next item, so she is recusing herself from voting.
Is there a motion to approve the EAAC project-specific support as recommended by the Fresno Arts Council and the Cultural Arts Subcommittee?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
So is there a motion to approve the EAAC project-specific support as recommended by the Fresno Arts Council and the Cultural Arts Subcommittee?
I have to ask, there is one grant, actually two of them, that I might have a conflict of interest in. I probably should recuse myself from voting on this one.
Okay. So do I have a quorum to vote on this one? It's not over.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Dolan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No. This item is approved. We will now move on to hearing ID number 25-1366, hearing to receive public input on expanded access to arts and cultural grant program. Would any member of the public like to make a comment regarding this item? You will have up to 3 minutes for comment.
There are no speakers online.
No cards in the chambers. I will close public comment. Does any member of the commission have any questions or comments regarding this item? All right, we will move on to the next hearing. ID number 25-1367, hearing to receive public input on allocations related to Measure P, updates to the Parks Master Plan and Cultural Arts Plan, and annual Parks Department budget and capital improvement plans. Would any member of the public like to make a comment regarding this item? You will have up to 3 minutes for comment.
There are no speakers online.
No cards in the chambers. I will close public comment. Does any member of the commission have any questions or comments regarding this item? All right, it is 7:50. As always, I would like to adjourn the meeting in love and memory of Dr. Francine Naputa, who we miss dearly on this commission, especially during this time, to help guide us through these hard decisions. It is 7:51. Thank you all for coming out, and enjoy the rest of your evening.